So, folks, there is this thing called Medicaid, and it keeps approximately 70 million people in this country alive and able to get the medicine and operations they need in order to continue staying alive. And fun fact about that 70 million figure, roughly half, around 35 million people on Medicaid are children. And Republicans just revealed their big proposal in the House to cut Medicaid. Again, we've been watching town halls and town halls and town halls of Republicans saying over and over and over and over and over again, we're not going to cut Medicaid. You're all lying about that. All of you dirty, filthy libs in your lies, you leftists, socialists, communists, you're telling lies grounded in the Marxian tradition. Well, it turns out that they lied. They lied about it, and their cuts are going to be devastating. But that being said, before we dive into it, like, comment, and subscribe. Never a good time to throw that in there, but there's not really a good spot in here to throw that in, so do it now. Do the thing that helps me in the algorithm. Let's go. On to some reporting from Mother Jones. Mother Jones has been doing some killer work, especially on Medicaid. Basically, this is going to force millions of people off of Medicaid. There are some pretty eye-opening pieces of this story. I'm going to link it in chat real quick for you guys to go over as you will. Lux Progressive, thank you very, very much for the raid. Welcome, Raiders. We're going over Medicaid cuts. It's not great. So, as a little bit of backstory for this, essentially, Republicans want to give the biggest tax breaks in history to the richest people to ever exist on the planet, right? And their big plan to do this is to extend the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017, which was Donald Trump's last multi-trillion-dollar tax cut to the ultra-wealthy, okay? And in order to actually balance the books this time, they need to cut Medicaid. That's essentially where they're looking to get the bulk of the funding for this tax cut. Essentially, they want to steal from the poorest, most vulnerable people in the entire country in order to give that money to the wealthiest people to ever exist. So that is what is happening right now. And now Republicans have a bit of a problem because, well, everyone basically knows, who knows anything about anything to do with Medicaid and tax cuts here, that there's only like 3 places to get the kind of money for those tax cuts: Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. And Medicaid is the most vulnerable to those cuts. So that's what they're going to do, right? Now, one of the things to point out here, and is pointed out here in Mother Jones's reporting, basically, they want to continue cutting Medicaid, especially in states that have already declined Medicaid expansions, because basically the people who are in those states on Medicaid are the most vulnerable to being cut. They are in the worst health, and therefore Republicans want to off them from Medicaid. And it is, I mean, like, here's one quote from one person: "Getting kicked off it would probably destroy me," which is true, you know? With House Republicans feeling Medicaid cuts in the range of hundreds of billions of dollars at Trump's behest, the income limits that determine eligibility, which already vary state by state, could drop, putting Rivera and his wife at risk of losing health coverage despite their minimal income. Rivera's wife, Danny, is also disabled with nerve and cervical spine damage. Her husband has been her caregiver since before his own medical emergencies. Their 12-year-old son is autistic. If the couple did not have a child, in addition to being low income, they wouldn't have qualified for Medicaid at all under Florida's strict eligibility requirements. Yeah, this shit is, I mean, it's evil. It's evil, right? Um, basically, of the 70 million people that qualify under Medicaid right now, 20 million of them only qualify because their state has expanded Medicaid. I.e., they've taken free money from the federal government, offered freely, no strings attached, in order to expand Medicaid coverage. Okay? And there are, I think, only 10 states left that have not actually expanded their Medicaid coverage. States could restrict enrollment in some of the mandatory categories by lowering income thresholds or making it harder to keep, said David Maklet, a senior health policy expert with the National Health Law Program. The end result is people will lose coverage, and that will have major health impacts on those individuals. And by major health impacts, they mean those people might die. Some of the quotes here. I don't see how any state could protect people with disabilities from these kinds of cuts. 2/3 of people with disabilities who are on Medicaid aren't eligible under the SSI pathway. And basically, Republicans have time and time again been talking about how, well, no one with a disability is going to lose their Medicaid coverage. Except that's an outright lie. It's a lie. Okay? Essentially the imposition of work programs, which Republicans have said, oh, the work programs aren't going to apply to people with disabilities. There's no language in the proposed cuts to carve out an exception for people with disabilities. And like, it's awful. It's awful. Like part of what people don't get, right, about Medicaid is that it is what allows hospitals to remain open in a lot of cases, right? So for example, and I know this because one of my old podcast co-hosts, you worked at a rural hospital in Montana, okay? And understand that when these rural hospitals function, they often function at a loss. But they are able to make that up due to Medicaid because their rural patients have Medicaid coverage despite being in poverty-stricken areas. They're able to go and get treatment at the hospital. If you take away and cut Medicaid, those hospitals close. And then instead of like a car accident victim in a rural area going to the hospital that's, 30 minutes away, they're going to a hospital that's 2 hours away. Like, this is the kind of cut that is going to drastically, like, eliminate hospital coverage across the country. And it's going to overload the existing hospitals as people get diverted from those rural locations to more urban areas. Okay? So there's going to be a cascading effect that hits everybody, regardless of where you are in this system. Okay, even if you have private coverage, this is going to affect you. If you have like Medicare, this is going to affect you. It's going to affect you wherever you are in the system, unless you are like one of the true, billionaire elites and you have your own personal doctor on staff with your own personal medical ward. This is going to affect you. Rosa Pudding in Twitch chat writes, Medicaid helps my partner who has multiple sclerosis pay for her $98,000+ medication every 6 months. As of this year, they are no longer covering it. My God, I'm really sorry to hear that, Rosa Pudding. That's awful. It should make you angry. This should make everybody angry. This is unacceptable. And I want to be very clear here. When we are talking about these cuts, we are talking about essentially Republicans sentencing people who are poor to death. This is essentially a way of saying, the Ebenezer Scrooge line from A Christmas Carol. decrease the surplus population. It is eugenicist in nature. Malthusian economics at work. Essentially, it's the meme of like the guy going, guess I'll die. It's that. Like, understand 14 million people on Medicaid. 14 million people on Medicaid live in rural areas. 14 million. And like, honestly, it's gonna hit so many people. Like the cascading effects of this. Like if you have a child with disabilities, this is going to hurt you profoundly, regardless of where you are when it comes to when it comes to your income. This is a quote from one of the experts Mother Jones interviewed. Those fundamental changes, i.e. Medicaid rollbacks, in the optional categories of Medicaid enrollees will have a huge impact on kids who otherwise would not have access to the kind of life-saving and life-sustaining care that they need. Remember, 35 million of the 70 million people who are on Medicaid, 35 million of them are children. Now, when they talk about work requirements and how, don't worry, guys, the work requirements aren't going to kick anyone off of Medicaid. They're not cuts. Those work requirements that are being proposed right now by Republicans in Congress would threaten to push 36 million people who are currently enrolled on Medicaid off. That is half of Medicaid enrollees could be kicked off due to these work requirements. And those people are on Medicaid because they have no other choice. And one of the interesting things that Mother Jones in this reporting notes is that 13 states enacted Medicaid work requirements during Trump's first go-around. Of those 13 states, none of them kept those work requirement programs because it actively cost taxpayers money to deny those people Medicaid. It was actively more expensive to force these people to work. Georgia is the only state with an active Medicaid program with work requirements at this point, and it costs them $86.9 million every year to keep it running. And there's a really interesting observation from ProPublica, which is that 75% of that 86.9 million, do any of you want to take a guess where that went? Anyone want to take a guess? Wild guess? Where did 75% of the money that Georgia was paying to keep their work programming going? Some rich guy's yacht fund. That's a good guess. It went to consultants. Republican consultants got 75% of that money. The other 25% was to pay for the means testing. When Arkansas introduced work requirements, it kicked 18,000 people off of the rolls in the first 7 months of its enactment. These cuts are designed to kill. I need people to understand that, because a lot of Republicans, I've seen them talk about this. I've heard them. I've listened. And a lot of Republican voters, they don't view themselves or their families as expendable. They don't view themselves as the waste in the system that needs to be cut. They're good, hardworking, God-fearing people, and they just got diabetes at the age of 65. And they don't realize that it's their ass on the chopping block. They don't realize it. They don't get it. When they look at the waste in the medical system, they're thinking of the Reagan era stereotypes. It's like something that happens way over there, not something that happens here. It's not my disabled child who's going to get their coverage cut. No, I'm so sick. I'm so sick of like the cruelty is the point. The cruelty isn't the point. The money is the point. The entire reason this is happening is not to virtue signal to a base that is hungry for blood. That's just how it's being spun. The reason this is happening is so that the rich can get exponentially richer. And Republicans have just been running a very successful campaign to spin that as a good thing, actually. To spin it as a culture war where their gladiators are spilling blood. But that blood is the blood of 35 million children on Medicaid. And I am just going to throw out there that when these cuts hit, that is going to radicalize a lot of people. And I hope that we can use that opportunity to get people motivated to turn out to protest, to turn out to vote, to turn out to do the things that keep us from like continuing this downslide into fascism. Because frankly, guys, I don't think there's really a way to spin this. I don't think there's a way to spin this as a win for Republicans. Because these kinds of cuts, you know, people might be kind of closed off in general. You know, especially if you're rural, you're kind of isolated. But you know what you do notice if you're rural and isolated? You notice if your fucking hospital, like, isn't in operation anymore.
They think we're waste and an obstacle to kissing their donors at CIS, to be frank.
True. Republican politicians, absolutely. But Republican voters in rural areas, they notice when their hospitals close. They notice when they can't take their kid to the hospital that was like 30 minutes away. Now they got to drive, 3 hours while little Timmy's brain is melting due to a high fever. They notice that shit. And like, that is going to radicalize anybody. Okay? And one of the things we need to do is we need to make sure that we are mobilizing en masse peacefully in order to provide a sane and positive alternative. Okay? That's what we need to do. Because otherwise, they are going to get radicalized by some other huckster. They're going to get radicalized by the local flim-flam man who's going to, teach them that actually you need to embrace the death cult. The cult of heroism is great, actually. Sacrifice yourself for the country. And don't let that happen. Don't let that happen. We all need to do our part, and I'm trying to do mine. I hope you guys will do yours. So that's kind of where we're at. I understand that there are going to be a lot of people who believe wholeheartedly that, people can't change and that, bad people did this and they are always going to be bad. I just want you guys to know I reject that notion wholeheartedly. I reject the notion that people are incapable of change. I reject the notion that people are incapable of finding better ideas. I reject the notion that a better world is impossible because bad people exist. I reject it. This channel isn't going to be about that, ever. And so I hope you all will do your part to actually help save Medicaid, okay? Because I'm not just ending this as like, well, this bad thing is happening, because it hasn't happened yet, guys. Republicans have just revealed their plan. This is a plan that is going to be iterated on and is going to try and make its way all the way until September to be voted on for the budget. Okay? So that's what this is that's what is happening here. And you guys can help sway things, all right? There is an ACT account by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and you can sign up to make calls in order to protect Medicaid. And I want you guys to start doing those calls. incorporate them into your daily ritual. Call your elected representatives. Call them every day. I don't care if they're Republican. I don't care if they're Democrat. I don't care if they're like a progressive or like, some kind of like centrist dem. I don't care. Call them. Call them every goddamn day. Fax them every goddamn day. Leave them messages until you're blue in the face. All right? That's what I want to see from you guys. I don't want to see this, woe is me, everything's shitty, everything's broken, it's always going to be broken. That's like the attitude of like a 5-year-old. And I want people here to actually step up. You have agency. You have the ability to invoke change. Okay? So do it. Also, Fax Zero. Use Fax Zero. Okay? There is a website called faxzero.com. I'm going to link it in chat here, where you can send your elected representatives faxes without a fax machine. You just type up your fax, and it sends a fax to your elected representative. On the website, it has lists for your Congress people, both Senate and House, so you can fax them. So call them and fax them. I like faxing them because I know there's a physical piece of paper in their office that someone somewhere has to fucking read. They don't care though? They do though. I don't fucking care if you think that they don't read them. I don't care if you think that your senators are traitors. Call and fax. Call and fax. Call and fax. I don't think they care. They keep committing crimes. They want you to think that they don't care. They absolutely do care. Okay? We know that they care because we get leaks about like, they're crying. They're crying because the town hall was mean to them. Fuck. Even if it's just from your most vindictive side of yourself, call and fax them. Okay? They don't care. Again, Starm, you've made a habit of doing this. I understand you're very doomer-pilled right now. Stop. Again, this channel is never going to be catering towards your guys' idea of like, nothing good can happen. These people are just evil. They will never respond to public pressure. Hey, you know who was fucking evil? The white supremacists during the civil rights era. Did you know what they did anyway? They caved to fucking pressure. Like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, if you guys think like, oh man, we're really screwed, then get fucking louder. Okay? Get louder. Do more. Get other people to get loud. Get other people to do more too. Do your fucking part. This woe is me bullshit of like, they aren't gonna care. Get over yourself. Get over yourselves. We're all fucking scared. We're like, you're not alone. We're all fucking terrified and upset and angry as shit. But we're gonna do something about it. Let's see. They'll care if they think they're going to lose their next election. Yep. And, wait. What's coming right around the corner? Literally right after September, it's the fucking election for the midterm starts. It's crazy.
Get out.
C321D9Q. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Appreciate it. I'm down to be a petty bitch. I'll call them and fax them, and I'll primary them. Amber Brains. That's what I love to see. Okay. That's what I love to see. Be petty as fuck. And the pettier you can be, and the more spectacular your pettiness can be, the better. GGGGG, I love that. Power concedes nothing without a demand, and if you're not brave enough to demand via phone call, what is going to happen when things get worse and you need to demand with a gun? Exactly. Exactly. You demand now in as strong of terms as you can, and we keep doing that until we win.
be a nightmare for those who are okay with you living in one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have time off work. I'll call them all day. Hell yeah, Metal Kitty Mom. Call them back even if they hang up. I don't care. I don't give a shit. That's what I love to see. That's what I love to see, guys. I tried during the election. I tried during the original budget vote. And you know what? We're going to keep trying. We do not have the luxury of stopping. Tomorrow is my day off, so it gives me something to do. Yep. And a tool you can use, 5calls.org. It'll help you connect to your representatives in the House, your senators, and also you can connect with your governors. Call your governors. Demand action from your governors as well. They are a powerful player in this. Did we do well back on March 14th? You did do well back on March 14th. Absolutely. Yeah, they legally cannot ignore you if you are a constituent. 5 calls is based on the premise that if you are a constituent, they are obligated to record the nature of your call and the topic of your call. You call about 5 different things every week. That tallies up to 5 different calls that they received. Whereas if you call 5 times about one thing, it only counts as 1. It's stupid, but that's how they tally it. So yes, get out there, call, do everything you can. Now's the time. Because we got to fight this shit. They want to kill a lot of people.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and switching streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, daily, plenty more. Your sense of fashion, you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat.